Here we go into game 35. Opponent is a warlock.
Let's have some fun.
The forest fights back.
Gonna want a mulligan for discard warlock. It's the most aggressive variant of warlock, and we want cards that matter in that matchup in our opening hand. So none of these are very good against them. Tar Creeper, it looks like a defensive tool, but I think I should have mulliganed it. It doesn't do much against discard warlock. It gets traded into by the 4-mana 5/5 rush, and most crucially, it only has one attack during our turn, so we can't attack into a Tiny Knight or a Malkazar's Imp, which is what we just really need to be removing those two minions in this matchup.
This will be good.
Nothing on turn 1 or turn 2 from our opponent definitely makes me think that they are not discard warlock. But against any warlock, we just play out the 1/5 taunt here. Sinister Deal. And so that is a very weird card. It doesn't go into discard warlock, it doesn't go into cube warlock, it doesn't go into Mechathune lock. It used to go in Darkest Hour warlock, but that deck was nerfed hard. So I'm thinking that it must be Darkest Hour warlock and someone just trying to make it work despite the nerfs. So I just want to look for Lotheb and Zephyrus here. Dirty Rat, we definitely don't want to play that. The Creeper's actually pretty good for that deck. They have Plague of Flames and Darkest Hour wants tokens. They do a very interesting move there. They Mortal Coil their own 1/1, and that should have told me that maybe it's not Darkest Hour, because they want all the minions they can get for Darkest Hour, and they have the coins, so they could have Darkest Hour next turn. They could have traded in their Creeper, and if they had 3 tokens left, get 3 minions off of Darkest Hour, and that's pretty good. So the coiling their own 1/1 should have told me that it's not Darkest Hour warlock, but I was still thinking maybe it is. So let's clear off as many things as we can get and keep drawing with the Crystal Merchant. Coin Hellfire Potion. That's not really a card you usually see in any warlock. Although Reno warlock could possibly run it. However, I was just not thinking Reno warlock. I was still thinking maybe it's Darkest Hour warlock and they just run Hellfire Potion. Just play out the 2 3/3s. Got nothing else to play that last turn. Still have not seen any small minions from our opponent, so maybe it was reasonable to believe that they were Darkest Hour warlock. And there we saw a second lackey creating spell, so it probably is not warlock. I have no idea what we're up against at this point, so I don't really know what to do. I decided to just go ahead and play Elise, duplicate our hand. I will overdraw one card, but we have 2 Zephyrs, 2 Zola, 2 Reno. Should be pretty well set against whatever our opponent is doing. We've got them at 16. We might be able to get some sort of lethal. Here we see Imp Balming.
That was wild.
And now I really don't know what they are, because you wouldn't run Imp Balming in a Darkest Hour Warlock. And now we see what it is. It's Darkest Hour.
Who you calling ugly?
So, should be pretty easy. All we have to do... I mean, there's no way they can compete with our Zephyrus train here.
My hand overflows.
Not a bad mill either. Druid of the Swarm. I don't have many great plays other than Zephyrus. Reno doesn't do anything. Steladris is just a 2/3, and then I have 6 more mana to try and spend, so I just play Zephyrus. See what he offers. Consider the Houndmaster. I didn't realize I had a beast, and yes, the beetle is a beast. Consider Tyrion, nice stats, but can't play it this turn, so we'll just go for the Shadow Priest. Steal the Trog. They have a lot of Shaman cards in their hand. They could have buffed it up quite a bit.
No.
And as we can see, yes, they did have multiple overload cards. That Trog would be a 3/3 already. No, see, 4/3. They were left 3 crystals. And now here we are, still above 30 health, 2 Renos in hand. Our opponent's down to 4 cards. Darkest Hour just doesn't really work. Unless you get incredibly lucky. Just gonna play Zephyrus, see what we get. The Ooze is perfect. It allows us to impact the board and also Zola the Zephyrus. And I'm just gonna play a Steladris for the 2/3. We've got Zephyrus, we've got Branson Pass, we've got a white board. Opponent's at 13. Lethal is incoming. Pretty sure we have lethal with Zephyrus. Maybe we could have spellstoned the 0/2 taunt first to guarantee it even more. I think that's actually, we had lethal here. If we had spellstoned first, Zephyrus and just Bloodlust would have given us 9 more. 9, 10. Yeah, we definitely had lethal here. But it doesn't really matter. Can't really lose this game at this point. I think here I realize we have lethal with Zola Zephyrus.
Well played.
I didn't even need to do this. We could have Spellstoned and Branching Path for the plus attack. I'm a little surprised that our opponent is at Platinum rank with that deck. Maybe they were playing something else and then switched to this. They got bored. Or maybe they got some wins with that. Game 36 now.
Lunara versus
Another
Buddha.
warlock.
Your souls shall be mine.
The forest fights back.
So we're gonna mulligan for discard warlock, and I'm debating whether to keep living roots. I realized this game that we should not keep Tar Creeper against discard warlock, but the living roots, I think we keep it. We can make we're going first, so we make 2/1/1s, and if they play an imp or a tiny knight, it's good against both because we can hero power down the imp with the 2/1/1s. Looking really good for us. No one drop from them. If it is discard warlock. No need to play Zephyrus. We still don't know what we're up against. We might... If we knew 100% that it was discard warlock, I probably would have played Zephyrus there for the 3-2 and guaranteeing a 3-drop. We see a tap here, and at this point I know we're not against discard warlock. They would have played something by now.
This will be good.
So... probably either Cube Lock or Mechathune Lock. Librarian could still be either one.
There is so much untapped power in this world.
Eben Lock. That tells us it's probably Cube Lock. And so this is a turn where we have a lot of choices. We could Zephyrus and try and silence or do something to their Eben Lock. However, against Cube Lock we really need Zephyrus to deal with their big boards. So it's either Bees or the Piper here. Bees is okay, but it puts out more stats than the Piper does. But I decide just to spend most of our mana and start cycling. We do want to draw to our duplicate effects so we can duplicate Zephyrus. Here I think we just play Sludge Belcher. Yeah, no, that's the only play I really consider. Now, whether to go face or trade into the 2 on Kobold, I decide not to trade into the 2 on Kobold because it could give them an easy defile with the Void Lord attack into the Sludge Belcher. The Void Lord would be 1, Sludge Belcher 2, and also just 3-1 dying to defile is not great. However, this did make us a little vulnerable to Plague of Flames by not trading into the 2-1 Librarian. I see the Ziliax, and I'm thinking maybe Reno. Then again, Cube Locks sometimes do run the Ziliax. And so here, I don't have many good plays other than Zephyrus. We can Zephyrus for Shadow Madness to deny their Void Caller summoning a demon, also clearing their board while developing a 3-2, keeping our 3-3 alive, and putting a 3-4 Death Rattle into our Death Rattle pool for ends off. However, Zephyrus is something we often want to deal with the big boards that Cube Lock can create. So I'm really going back and forth on whether I want a Zephyrus here or not. The other play would probably just be Reno. And there is merit to that. However, I already have Enzoth in hand. We get a 3-4 in our Death Rattle pool. And just... we haven't seen the skull from our opponent, so it looks like they're going to have a hard time getting out their demons if we remove this Void Walker. So we decided to go for it. Looking back... I'm not sure. This might have been right. Reno might have been right. It's hard to say. It's nice that our Zephyr survived so we can Zola it. Now our opponent plays Cartoot Defender, and that right there should have told us that this is probably Reno. Cube Lock does not run Cartoot Defender normally. So we definitely Zola the Zephyrus, which is good. We have that in our hand, although now we've lost our Zola. So getting a duplicate of duplicate chain going is a bit harder. We only have Elise and Floop to go infinite. But having a Zephyrus in our hand is just so important. We've got to play the Zola. The rest of the turn, I could have used bees, but I decided I want to get our Archspore Mishfin dead sooner rather than later, so we can Enzoth on curve if need be. Also, by playing this, it allows us to... well, see, if we had bees instead, they would have a 3-1 left over after the bees effect, and we can't trade into that very well. So, for stat trading, it's just better to play the 3-4 as well. So here they play the Dreadlord. I could mulch it. I could Reno. We could bees and just do some trading. We definitely don't want the Dreadlord to live, so they can't cube it. I'm also thinking we might Zephyrus. I did Dirty Rat, and that's because I did not know what we were up against. I just wanted to see what is in their deck, see what I'm up against. After seeing that, I know it's got to be some sort of Reno deck. Q-Block never plays that card. So I'm just going to play Zephyrus here. I'm looking for Hex. However, it gives us another Shadow Madness I had not considered. And so what we can do with the Shadow Madness is take the Cartoot Defender, which is insane value. It puts a Cartoot Defender into our Death Rattle pool for our Enzoth. It denies our opponent's Enzoth's Cartoot Defender. It essentially silences and kills theirs while also giving us a 3-1. It's just so much value, I have to go for it. And here I just want to push face. I'm trying to just end this game quickly. I've already used up Zola and my Zephyrus, so if it goes long, we might be at a disadvantage. Looking back, I wish I had saved the Zephyrus. We're against a Reno deck. They can heal. They haven't... I think they've used a... No, they haven't even used Defile yet. Or Godfrey. So it's... Or Zephyrus. So it's very likely they're going to clear this board. We're not going to be able to find lethal. And now that we're out of Zola and Zephyrus, we only have Enzoth left that we want to duplicate. Sure enough, there's a Defile. There goes our board. There goes our hopes of pushing out a lethal quickly. Yeah, I think the previous turn was either mulching the Dreadlord or just trading into it and playing Reno. Here we see Kazakus finally confirming 100% that we're up against a Reno deck. Not much to do here, just play the Bees and the Tart Creeper, or Reno. Reno is just pretty much a 4-6 in this matchup. I do consider holding on to minions as fighting against a Dirty Rat. A lot of the Reno Warlocks like to run Dirty Rat, and if they Dirty Rat our Enzoth, it's just completely game over at this point. However, they're at 17, I need to push tempo, so I decided to just play Reno. Branching Paths we're definitely going to cycle with. Yeah, it's a great top deck. We were running pretty low on value in our hand. I think we're just going to play Tar Creeper and the Beetle. Once again, though, I am... let's see. I mulch it. I don't like this play. I think I was still partly on the aggressive plan in my mind, but that plan, I think, was lost when we lost that board to the Defile. Maybe I was considering holding the Beetle still as a fight against Dirty Rat, but I think we should have just played the Creeper and the Plated Beetle and let the Void Lord live and hold on to that mulch. There's still Mal'Ganis we haven't seen from our opponent.
So many possibilities.
If they do play Enzoth, we need to be able to kill that so they can't Brand Zola it. Yeah, I did not like that play we did. Here we see a Kazakus potion. Pretty powerful. Gives them another even lock. Clears the board. Puts out a lot of stats.
The circle of life is over.
I decided to go with Malfurion and Crystal Merchant. We were always going to play Crystal Merchant this turn. The question is, do we play with Beetle and Steladris or Malfurion? Definitely Malfurion, because we can protect the Merchant with the 1/5s with Taunt. So one thing I'm considering at this point is, do I silence Ebenlock or not? Normally you would think, yeah, silence it, so they don't get another one in their pool for Enzoth, so they don't... Well, they still get that in their pool. Silence it so they don't get another Prime version. However, they already have a Prime version in their deck, and so if we don't silence it and we kill it, and that other one's still in their deck, we could turn off the Reno effects. At least until I draw one. So we drew the Ferocious Howl, cycle it. Definitely going to be playing Spellbreaker, although I'm not sure what to silence. We could silence my Ganis. We could silence the Ebenlock. Maybe we don't play Spellbreaker. Maybe we... What we might do is... Yes, I see. We're playing Plated Beetle and Druid of the Swarm. Druid of the Swarm is a 1/5 taunt. With our 1/2 taunt, could protect our Crystal Merchant. We really need to draw into Elise plus Floop. That is how we get a way out of this game. Fortunately, we just wasted our Zephyrus and Zola way too early.
My turn is not.
We made that trade to protect the Merchant. Or, to protect the taunts to protect the Merchant. So I said, go ahead. We're not going to silence your Ebenlock. We just want to protect our Merchant. And there's the off chance that the Reno effects are turned off, which could be powerful. Here we're seeing a cube on the Mal'Ganis. And a faceless manipulator on the cube. So it's like a cube lock Reno version of the deck. Definitely going to be playing Spellbreaker on one of the cubes. And the only thing left really is Lotheb. The other option would have been Steladris Hero Power, but Lotheb just puts out way more stats. We draw Rising Winds off of the Merchant. Yeah, this game is not looking very good for us. We've exhausted a lot of our value before we could duplicate it. And now our opponent has 2 Ebenlocks primes, and a dead Mal'Ganis, and soon going to be 2 more dead Mal'Ganis in the pool to be resurrected. So our turn, we could either Mishfin Prime or we could Steladris and do other stuff, but we really need to clear one of those Mal'Ganises. Mishfin Prime does that perfectly. I'm thinking next turn we're just going to go off with Steladris. We have Rising Winds and Wrath. Rising Winds alone is just so much value with Steladris. And we just want to cycle to Elise Fleet. Here, now there's the first Prime. At least they only get 1 Mal'Ganis, but still, a Mal'Ganis, a Dreadlord, and even the Dreadlord's second body is just so much. Here I draw Elise, and I consider, what if we just were to Elise here? Because we might not have time to do Elise Floop to get more than 1 duplication of the Enzoth. They are starting to mount pressure. We have no Zephyrus to clear their board anymore.
My thoughts are plain.
The other play is to go off on Steladris and try to see if we can hold out. That's the play I decide to go with in the end. I'm thinking there's only 6 cards left in our deck. Let's try to get Floop. And the other thing about this play is that Steladris Wrath with 3 damage on the first choice, and then with both choices in our hand, we can clear the Mal'Ganis, which takes off a lot of damage from our opponent's board. The downside to this play is now our opponent has another Mal'Ganis in their pool to be resurrected. So here, by the way, we are going with 3-2. Yes, we only have a few cards left in our deck. Oh, see, I drew. Huh. Yeah, I guess I was just really going for that Floop. Because really, we only have one more turn, probably, if even that, to try and get a Floop. Here's my plan right now. We're going to draw a Floop. We're going to play Elise. No, we're not going to play these. We're going to play Enzoth. We're going to play Enzoth, and then Floop will become a copy of Enzoth. Then later, we dump our spells and then play Elise. One copy of Floop will be Elise, the other copy will still be the Enzoth, so we can keep the Enzoth chain going. So we just really need to draw Floop here. Opponent with the Alexstrasza. They Dark Pact their Mistress of Mixtures. Looks like they're setting up lethal. They don't want that to be on the board for us to kill and gain HP from. No Floop. I'm thinking maybe we just play Cycle for Floop still, and maybe Kartut Defender will keep us alive. This was not a good play, I think. I think we should have played Enzoth. They still have Zephyrus in their deck. Or somewhere could be in their hand, most likely. And maybe they run other silence effects. They have lethal on board if they have any silence or Zephyrus. Though I suppose if I were to Enzoth, they would still have lethal with Zephyrus, because he could give Mass Dispel. So maybe this was the right move. We just gotta hope they don't have Zephyrus. Try to get Floop still. Yeah, the opponent has 25 damage on board. Looks like they don't have the Silence or Zephyrus, so we will survive this turn. Our Reno is gone from our deck. Though that shouldn't be health should not be an issue once we get Enzoth chains going. We'll have too many Kartut Defenders in our pool to worry about HP. The only thing we're worrying about is Zephyrus. No Floop. That's rough. So at this point, there's no more trying to stall for Floop. We've just got to go in on the Enzoth. Hope that somehow we can find a win from this. So our opponent didn't have Zephyrus last turn, it looks like, but they top decked it now. So there's the lethal with the Mass Dispel. It was a good game. We definitely made a misplay by using up our resources too early, our Zephyrus and our Zola. We would have liked to have those in our hand to duplicate with Elise. But this is how it turned out.